Welcome back to the 369th episode of Thought Behind Things. Today is the 29th of September 2023 and the guest with us today, Zaigham Haque. He has a remarkable story, but more than that, he speaks in such a interesting, soothing way कि आपको मज़ा आता है इनको सुन के. He has been an investment banker in the past, but most recently opened up SCAFA, which is basically school for, I'm not sure what the abbreviation stands for, but primarily culinary art, chefs, restaurants में जो आप खाना बनाते हैं, जो पूरी दुनिया की टॉप क्वालिटी का खाना जो लोग बनाते हैं, उसका इंस्टीट्यूशन इन्होंने स्टार्ट किया in Dubai, and then he expanded that to Lahore as well, and I believe he has a partnered institution in Lebanon as well. We speak about his journey, establishing a world-class institution coming from Pakistan in Dubai, servicing all different nationalities. Unka talent jo ab nikalta hai, they're in some of the top 5-star hotels across the world. It's a fascinating conversation, very different, very unique, and मुझे बहुत मज़ा आया इनसे बात करके, ख़ासकर इनकी स्टोरी सुन के. अगेन मैं फिर से बोलूँगा, इनके बोलने का स्टाइल और तर्ज बहुत ही मज़े का था. मुझे I haven't heard इस तरह से in a very very long time, and obviously it's such a depth and breadth of knowledge कि हमने इतनी ज़्यादा और चीज़ों के बारे में I was able to learn from him as well. Okay, I think this is just the part 1, and if you do like the conversation, let me know in the comment section below so that I can call him in once more. But anyways, अगर आप चैनल पे नए हैं तो सब्सक्राइब करना मत भूलिएगा. अगर आप पुराने हैं तो लाइक ज़रूर करिएगा वीडियो को. आप लोग देखते हैं और लाइक नहीं करते. It really helps our algorithm and helps the video reach out to more audiences. If you have any thoughts, मुझे नीचे comment section में ज़रूर आके बताएं. I would love to listen to your opinions. It really helps me increase the quality of the podcast. But anyways, here is Zaigham Haque on TBT Go, Dubai Studio. Sir, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
How's everything?
All well, enduring the heat. ये साल कुछ ज़्यादा ही गर्मी पड़ी है दुबई में शायद.
अच्छा, ज़्यादा है क्योंकि इस साल ठंड भी ज़्यादा पड़ी थी, क्योंकि I came in April and बड़ा pleasant मौसम था. मैंने कहा यार दुबई तो is not that bad.
And we had a good winter. मेरे ख्याल में मार्च के अंदर लग रहा था कि वो ख़त्म होने वाला है, but it extended. We had good weather काफ़ी देर तक. In fact, I think एंड मई तक हम शाम को बाहर बैठते रहे गार्डन में. That was nice.
बट अब तो इस वक्त आप 15 सेकंड बाहर रहे हैं. It's just horrible.
इस वक्त तो हाँ, लेकिन मैं अभी भी हफ्ते में 3 दफ़ा गोल्फ खेलता हूँ.
अच्छा,
इस गर्मी में.
इंटरेस्टिंग. मुझे थोड़ा सा ये बताएं, you're into a very different business. बड़े कम हमारे पास लोग ऐसे आए हैं जो कि, और because you are a Pakistani, तो Pakistanis tend to be engineer, doctor, business में भी बड़ी गिनी चुनी. How did you come about the idea of opening a culinary school?
मैं लोगों को कहता हूँ इसके मेरे पास 2 जवाब हैं. एक इज़ what really happened, और दूसरा है जो मैं उसको जस्टिफाई करता हूँ बड़ा उसके अंदर सोच वगैरह लॉजिक डाल के. तो हुआ क्या था कि my wife, myself, मेरी दोनों बेटियां जो हैं, we've grown up in a very enjoying food a lot of all cultures. दुनिया जहाँ पे हम छुट्टियां लेते हैं ऐसे मुल्कों में जहाँ का खाना हमें पसंद है.
Right.
So that's the driver for our holidays. So हम उस वक्त मुझे याद है मैं लंदन गया हुआ था. हम लोग छुट्टी पे गए हुए थे और हम अपने दोस्तों के साथ एक टैक्सी में घुस के एक रेस्टोरेंट पे खाना खाने जाए थे जिसके बड़े अच्छे रिव्यूज़ आए हुए थे. तो टैक्सी के अंदर मेरे दोस्त ने लाफिंगली मुझसे कहा कि ज़ैगम, यू शुड ब्रिंग द कॉर्डन ब्लू to Dubai. Cordon Bleu is one of the most recognized culinary education institutes. तो हम सब हंसे. लेकिन उस रात को फिर मुझे ख्याल आया कि यार ये ख्याल वैसे बुरा नहीं है, बिल्कुल अच्छा सवाल है. तो मैं उधर से लंदन से मैं पेरिस चले गया.
अच्छा,
पेरिस
इमीडिएटली, मतलब
वो प्लान पे था.
अच्छा,
वो प्लान था कि हमने पेरिस भी जाना. तो मैंने सोचा अच्छा मैं पेरिस गया. मेरे साथ मेरी बेटी थी. तो मैंने कॉर्डन ब्लू को फ़ोन किया. मैंने कहा मेरी बेटी है, मैं उसको दाखिल कराना चाहता हूँ, मैं आ रहा हूँ. तो उन्होंने कहा कि आ जाएं जी, तो हम उधर गए तो आई सेड शो मी एवरीथिंग, तो उन्होंने मुझे ऊपर से नीचे तक दिखाया, ये आपकी क्लास है, ये वो। मैं वहाँ से निकल के मेरा वो जो कहते हैं ना बड़ा टिपिकल पाकिस्तानी रिएक्शन हुआ कि यार ये तो मैं भी कर सकता हूँ। तो उधर से बात असली बात वहाँ से शुरू हुई थी, ठीक है। मेरा कोई इरादा नहीं था अपनी बेटी को उस वक्त दाखिल कराने का, शी जस्ट ग्रेजुएटेड फ्रॉम यूनिवर्सिटी इन द यूके, तो शी वाज ऑन हर ओन थिंग, बट देख लिया मैंने। उसके बाद फिर वो जो कॉर्डन ब्लॉक का ओनर है, उसका नाम है ऑनरे क्वांट्रो, उसको रीच्ड आउट हिम, उसके साथ मेरी 1-2 मुलाकातें हुई, बड़ी अच्छी बातें हुई, बड़े मज़ेदार, हमने एक साथ लंचेस किए। उसका इंटरेस्ट था कि वो दुबई में मेरे साथ मिल के खोले, लेकिन उसका पेस जो था, जो जिस रफ्तार से मैं आगे इस बात को पढ़ाना चाह रहा था, वो मैच नहीं हो रहे थे, तो फिर आई वेंट इंडिपेंडेंटली।
दुबई में से पहले कोई स्कूल था? दुनिया भर में टेक्नोलॉजी बहुत इवॉल्व कर चुकी है। अब आप घर बैठे एक मोबाइल फ़ोन से पूरी दुनिया में किसी किस्म की भी डिफरेंट एसेट्स, स्टॉक्स या इवन क्रिप्टो करेंसीज ख़रीद सकते हैं। जहाँ पर ये टेक्नोलॉजिकल एवोल्यूशन आया, वहाँ पे भी अनफॉर्चुनेटली हालात ऐसे हैं कि इकॉनमी एक ऐसी जगह पर पहुँची हुई है कि बड़े आजकल बुरे हालात हैं, इन्फ्लेशन बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ रही है, सेविंग्स हमारी डिप्लीट हो रही हैं, ज़्यादातर लोग इन्वेस्टमेंट्स करते ही नहीं हैं, और जो करते भी हैं वो 90% लॉसेज अनफॉर्चुनेटली बनाते हैं। इसी प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व कर रहा है Sarmaaya.pk, जो कि अपने फाइनेंशियल ट्रेडिंग प्लेटफॉर्म्स पे ट्रेनिंग्स भी ऑफर करता है और डेटा भी ऑफर करता है, जिससे आप पूरी दुनिया की मार्केट्स, खासकर पाकिस्तानी मार्केट्स को बआसानी देख सकते हैं। अगर आप लोग अपनी इन्वेस्टमेंट्स और ट्रेडिंग में स्ट्रगल कर रहे हैं तो आई वुड डेफिनेटली अर्ज यू टू चेक आउट Sarmaaya Financials प्लेटफॉर्म। इट्स अ रिमार्केबल प्लेस, जहां पर आपको बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग रिपोर्ट्स के थ्रू डेटा भी मिलता है, इन्वेस्टमेंट की एडवाइस भी मिलती है, और ख़ासकर उनकी ट्रेनिंग्स जहां पर उनके एक्सपर्ट्स जो हैं वो आपको क्रिप्टो और स्टॉक मार्केट और कमोडिटीज़ और एसेट्स के अंदर ट्रेड करके पैसे कमाना सिखाते हैं। सो चेक आउट द प्लेटफॉर्म एंड चेक आउट देयर ट्रेनिंग्स। नाउ बैक टू द पॉडकास्ट।
वो पता है, ये दुबई के अंदर जब आप कोई भी बिजनेस, कोई भी धंधा शुरू करें ना, आपके दिमाग में होता है कि ये आप यूनिक चीज़ कर रहे हैं, लेकिन एक दफ़ा आप शुरू कर लें ना, आपको समझ आती है दुबई में हर चीज़ के मुख्तलिफ मॉडल्स हैं। सो आई फाउंड देयर वाज कंपटीशन एंड देयर वाज वन कंपेटिटर, देन देयर वर लॉट्स ऑफ पीपल हु आर डूइंग sort of home-based classes or informal classes, but structured vocational education जिसको आप कहते हैं, जिससे आप अपने आप को इंडस्ट्री के लिए तैयार करते हैं, वो बिल्कुल inadequate थी इस मुल्क में उस वक्त जब मैंने शुरू किया था।
Right, and you started in 2010, I believe.
This trip to the Cordon Bleu was in 2010. Right. The development of the concept took me a couple of years. So शुरू में feasibility मैं उस वक्त कुछ कर रहा था, तो feasibility के लिए मैंने एक थर्ड पार्टी कंपनी को हायर किया कि ज़रा मुझे बताएं कि इसमें दम है इस बात में। And then premises ढूंढने में टाइम लगा, and then in 2011 we found the premises we are in today in Dubai, and फिर उसको डेवलप हमने करते करते हमारा साल निकल गया, and we started in 2012.
Interesting. थोड़ा सा if I were to go a little bit back, where were you born and अपने early life अपनी कहाँ पे गुजारी? Because I'm hearing a lot of London, Paris and Dubai.
I was born in Lahore, in CMH in Lahore,
right,
a long time ago, and my father was a naval officer.
Right.
तो फिर वो मेरे ख्याल में जब मैं पैदा हुआ था वो किसी कोर्स पे ऑस्ट्रेलिया में थे मेरे फादर। कराची वॉज होम बीइंग अ नेवल ऑफिसर्स चाइल्ड। उसके अभी 3 साल का था तो फिर मेरे फादर की पोस्टिंग हो गई थी लंदन, तो हम माई फर्स्ट 4 years एंड माई अर्ली स्कूलिंग वॉज इन द यूके।
नेवी की पोस्टिंग्स लंदन की क्या होती थी? ट्रेनिंग पोस्टिंग्स होती थी या डिफेंस अटैची होती थी?
He was an attaché.
Right.
So he was an attaché there in the High Commission in London.
Right.
So this was in the early mid-60s. So a long time ago. We were in the UK during the 65 war.
Acha.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
soon after that, wapas I got into school in Karachi.
Do you have any memory of London back in the day?
Surprisingly, I do. I remember all kinds of tamashas, accidents, falling into streams, ladaiyan.
How different was it from today's London? Smaller?
I was a child. It was. I was a child, very close to my parents. London today is less white than it was then.
Interesting. Right. So you came back to Pakistan, Karachi. Karachi में कहाँ पे? In terms of education.
This is embarrassing. तो जब मैं वापस आया तो कराची में कॉन्वेंट ऑफ जीसस इन मेरी एक स्कूल है फॉर गर्ल्स.
Right.
तो मेरी बड़ी बहन उसमें दाखिल हुई तो मेरे फादर ने मुझे भी उसमें दाखिल कर दिया. दे यूज्ड टू एक्सेप्ट बॉयज़ अप टू क्लास 3. ठीक है. तो मैं एक साल 1.25 साल उस स्कूल में था. वेरी फ्राइटनिंग टाइम इन माई लाइफ. और जब आप 6-7 साल के आपकी उम्र हो ना तो 6-7 साल की लड़कियां आपसे काफ़ी बड़ी होती हैं. सो इट वॉज अ स्कैरी period in my life. Then 68 में I had to leave the school. I went into Karachi Grammar School.
Right.
So I was there for about 6-7 years. फिर naval headquarters उन्होंने इस्लामाबाद ट्रांसफ़र कर दिया. तो my father was moved to Islamabad. Went to school in Pindi for a year. St. Mary's Academy है लालाजार में. And then I finished my schooling in Lahore at Aitchison.
Interesting. Aitchison last high school, like जो आपका college या high school होता है वो गुजारा?
3 साल.
3 साल आपने गुजारा.
3 साल.
How was
O-levels,
Aitchison?
A-levels.
How was Aitchison back in the day?
Oh, when I was there, what an institution. Seriously, मैं आपको बताऊँ sports, outstanding sports. उस ज़माने में ना पाकिस्तान की हॉकी टीम जो थी ना, it was Pakistan in sports was a different country. We had world E-class sailing champion. We had Zaigham Haque in chess. We had squash and we were chasing the Australians and Barrington in those zamane mein.
So then what do you think happened there? I mean, the sports is just dead now, apart from cricket, of course.
Apart from cricket, there's this thing about digging for gold. एक book है, एक Scandinavian ने लिखी है. He talks about the 10,000 hour rule and things like that. And Nawa Kili, जहाँ से हमारे सारे squash players आए ना, वो एक गाँव है. And I was very lucky. I started playing, I was young in my school, so sports के अंदर मुझे इतना attention मिला. I started playing squash. So I was quite an active squash player, and I was fortunate to learn how to play squash at the Fleet Club in Karachi, which was run by Roshan Khan, जहाँ पे Jahangir Khan learned his squash. And all these guys came from this one area, and the volume they played as kids, it was what they did. वो जब बात I think there was a time when these sports made a lot of financial sense to people. This was a way for them to get out of their terrible life and into a better life.
Right.
जब वो earning opportunities कम होती गई, I think
it's an economics. It's entirely economics.
It is, and you need sponsorships. You need care. I'm getting old. I can't play squash anymore, so I play golf. I have to play sport. I'm built like that. My father made me this way. So, and I look at पाकिस्तान के अंदर हमारे जो गोल्फर्स हैं, जो गोल्फ क्लब्स हैं, थोड़े से ही हैं, लेकिन उनके अंदर जो हमारे प्रोज हैं, इतने अच्छे प्लेयर्स हैं, लेकिन वो लोकल सीन के ऊपर जाके अटक जाते हैं. उनकी अपनी मोटिवेशन इतनी नहीं है, क्योंकि उनको जब वो एक दर्जे पे पहुंच जाते हैं जो उनको उससे हासिल हो रहा है ना, इट्स इनफ फॉर देम. They're not motivated to go to the next level. To take them to that next level, you need sponsorship, you need care, you need interest. And you can see that happening across the border in India. Now, they've got 4 or 5 golfers who are in the top 50. One good thing that I saw about Pakistan just now was we won the World Junior Squash Championship after some 13-14 years.
Yeah.
So, kuch chingari hai.
Kuch aa rahi hai. Then the javelin thrower also got like a silver, I believe.
A silver and with one throw.
Absolutely.
And there was some fantastic. उसके अंदर एक तस्वीर है. जब मैं Aitchison में था ना, there was and I think उसका coach is Salman Iqbal Butt, who was at Aitchison at the same time, and he was a schoolboy then, and he was part of the Pakistan athletics team, and he was a shot putter, जो मुझे याद है, shot put javelin, और ये इसका coach है.
Oh, interesting.
I saw a picture of them. It was posted on my Aitchison school group. It was very interesting.
And what years were you in Aitchison?
76 to 78.
Interesting. Where do you think a lot of folks from Aitchison ended up in beyond politics? You hear a lot of these people from politician. आप निकालते हैं तो generally Aitchison आता है. But other than that,
I look at my year group. I'd say 20% of them are not in the country, mostly in the United States, some in the UK and other places. The politicians, and a lot of them also went into government, civil service and things.
Interesting.
And business.
So you graduated somewhere in the mid-70s from high school.
Late 70s.
Late 70s. And then university ke liye where did you go?
I went to Essex, University of Essex, in Colchester in 79.
And what degree?
I got, the degree I applied for and that I was accepted for was literature and philosophy. और जिस दिन मेरे चाचा मरहूम अभी just passed away recently, so he'd come to my house the day I was leaving Islamabad. तो वो मुझे बताया था, ज़ैगम तुम्हारी डिग्री तो बहुत अच्छी है, मैं एक शायर को जानता हूँ, वो भूखा मर रहा होता है. तो ये ख्याल मेरे दिमाग में था पूरे फ्लाइट पे to the UK. So in that plane, this was the only thing I could think of, and I remember landing at Heathrow, and 1 or 2 days later finding myself at university, going directly to the admissions office and changing my degree to accountancy, finance and economics.
But originally, did you choose the degree, the philosophy and literature degree?
Absolutely.
What was the thought at that point?
I loved reading. I don't read very much anymore. मेरी वो focus नहीं है, इतनी attention span नहीं है. But all my life I've read. I read so much. I just enjoyed reading.
And your parents were completely fine with your decision of whatever you want to pursue?
My parents, my father was the most remarkable father you can imagine. Naval officer, Pakistan. मैं 6 साल का हूँ. He put me into piano lessons. I was 7. He made me a member of the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. I was small in my class because I was a year younger than the other kids. So I was physically small as a sports. So he took me aside and we used to play squash. He taught me how to sail. I used to go sailing. So my father was an incredible man. I think he's the reason I am the way I am.
Interesting. And जो ये accounting, finance and economics 3 years का program था?
3-year degree program.
So इस टाइम को तो आप बहुत बेहतर याद होगा आपको, right? This is 78.
Yes.
Compare that London to today, or that UK to today's UK. How would you differentiate?
Well, let me put it to you. There's the UK and then the UK from a Pakistani perspective.
Yeah.
Okay? So I got my acceptance letter from university, and I found my way into, I think it was still the British Embassy in those days. We were still out of the Commonwealth or whatever. So it was the British Embassy. I went there to get my visa, and उन्होंने मुझे visa लगा दिया. There was no issue. And I got to Heathrow and I said, I have my visa. And he said, you have a Pakistani passport, and you're coming to you don't need a visa.
In the late 70s,
in
Pakistanis...
1979, I arrived at Heathrow, and I'm scrambling through saying, I have a visa. And he says, you're here for university, you have a Pakistani passport, you do not need a visa. Okay, so that was me as a Pakistani over there. Pakistan cricket team visiting the UK in the early 80s. एक तो वो शकूर राना इंसिडेंट हुआ था, मुझे अभी तक याद है.
What was that incident?
Oh, cheating ka with Mike Gatting. So right. Shakur Rana was a Pakistani umpire, and he probably incorrectly, but Mike Gatting, who was the England captain touring Pakistan, वो बड़ी famous finger wagging incident थी. वो उन्होंने हमें cheats बुलाया. It became a diplomatic issue almost. मैं उस वक्त I was on an auditing course at Emil Wolf, and I had English folks all around me. And मुझे अभी तक याद है किसने कहा we should send our gunboats there. But you know, it was a. People tell me you lived in the UK for 10 years. तुमने वहाँ का passport क्यों नहीं लिया? Now I look back and say कितना मैं बेवकूफ हूँ. But I never felt the need to change my passport. It was a good passport. It was a very good passport. I'm not romanticizing. सच्ची मुच्ची मैं आपको जो कह रहा हूँ,
जो experience था वो है.
I mean, there was no need for me to, Pakistan was a wonderful country. It was a land of, opportunity and सारी चीज़ें होती हैं अच्छी इस तरह की. So
interesting.
And the UK was in those days was accessible. After I did my CA, I had job opportunities to stay on there, and I took one of them for a short time. Then I moved to the Middle East.
Do you think, I spoke to someone recently, I'll have him on the podcast as well. He moved somewhere in the probably mid 70s, and his experience was very unique. I've never heard about that, but he spoke about how if people think there is racism today, they have no idea what the 70s was like. He speaks about skinheads. He talks about, and he went to university in a very sort of remote part of the UK. He was like, I was the only brown person there. People would get beat up, people would get chased on the street. He spoke about this one incident. Not sure which place it was, but there were a lot of Pakistanis who got together and then beat up a bunch of folks. And that's when everything changed. So he was really on about the social dynamic of the UK, and how there was, at that time, after a lot of Pakistanis and Bangladeshis coming in, was beginning to create a lot of tension between communities. Did you experience any of that?
Very little. There were instances. मुझे अभी तक याद है मैं नया पहुंचा था, and my university town was Colchester. All these towns ending with Chester are ex-Roman garrisons, so they tend to be garrison towns. So वहाँ पे कोई फौजी अड्डा होता है, और जहाँ पे फौजी अड्डा होता है यूके में, those towns can be a little rough. मुझे अभी तक याद है मैं नया आया था, I was in Colchester town, and I saw these guys walking around with jeans, big boots, green jackets, and shaven heads. And my first thought was, my father would love their haircuts, being a military person. So I was naive. You had to learn to be a little bit careful. I think things changed. I think there were northern towns where you had large Asian populations. वहाँ पे tensions ज़्यादा होते थे. There was another town. My university was between two towns. It was Colchester, which was a little rough town, and Wivenhoe Village, which was academia. And there's a part of the UK which today is threatened, which is a gentle, kind, benevolent UK, which is people who are educated and well-meaning. मेरा उनके साथ राब्ता बहुत था, ऐसे लोगों के साथ. People into books, we were very fortunate. Our faculty of lecturers really enjoy. Some of my best friends today, I have continuing friends who were my instructors and professors at university. इस तरह के हालात थे. I had a very good time. Easily the best 3 years of my life, possibly, as a student in the UK. Sure, there were times when you had to be careful. मुझे अभी तक याद है मैं एक दफ़ा स्टेशन पे गया था किसी को छोड़ने के प्लेटफॉर्म के आगे जाके उसका बोगी था, उसको छोड़ के मैं ट्रेन निकल गई, मुड़ा देखा तो प्लेटफॉर्म के ऊपर 3 स्किन हेड्स और मैं अकेला. एंड दिमाग में क्या अभी कुछ होने वाला है, कुछ नहीं हुआ. बट सो लिटिल थिंग्स लाइक दैट, बट यू लर्न द नो गो एरियाज. वो हर जगह पे होती हैं.
ऑफ कोर्स
दुबई एक जगह जहाँ पे ये नहीं होता. बट
बाकी दुनिया में हर जगह पे हो ही जाता है.
बट आई थिंक दिस kind benevolent UK is now under threat more than ever before.
I was just gonna come to this comment that you just made. Do you think that's, I personally think that's not just the UK. There is this weird polarization happening across the world where more and more sort of fringes are rising, whether that's left or right. Nationalistic governments, आप even India में देख लें, आप Philippines में देख लें, all across Europe. The world had this sort of sweet globalization moment a few decades, and now very, very aggressively we are going into this sort of decoupling mode, and जो acceptance of all से अब acceptance of my crowd की तरफ जा रहे हैं कि यार हम एक region बना लेंगे और बस हम इसमें करते हैं. If you would look back to your life and your life experiences, and you've been around, you've had a very multicultural experience. What's your take on why all of this has happened over the last many, many years?
There's one very depressing take on this, which is कि post Second World War till now, 10 years ago, we've been living in a charmed world which never existed in history and may not exist in the future. In this period of 70 years, we strive towards democracy, improving rights of people, equality of gender rights. इस तरह की चीज़ें बड़ी movements हुई हैं. And we saw the world as something that's moving into a continuously better, kinder, fairer society. You can step back and look at the history of mankind and can say कि ये जो 70 साल थे ना, ये aberration थे, ये normal नहीं है. और हम we are people who are led by ruling classes brutally, and that is the norm. And it looks like we may be swinging back towards this. ये जो globalization हो रहा था, breaking down of barriers, improving the lot of everybody, from having a mobile phone to a TV and running water in your house. ये सारी improvements जो थी, ये
tail end पे है.
It's not important. The masses are not that important anymore. There's this possibility that this is a historical aberration. I was lucky to live in it. It scares me that my children, my grandchildren will not have this world. And so you're right. There is, and I think we've got accelerators. And I think we're at the beginning. ये जो trends आ रहे हैं ना, इनके जो accelerators are things like media. The social media, the hijacking of social media, the yet to be discovered directions that AI might take us towards. And I think these manipulations, abhi itni ajeeb si mein, I'm on a golf group जिसके ऊपर predominantly Indians हैं, और मैं उसके ऊपर I'm one of the few Pakistanis on it, and people will make comments and I kind of stay away from it. But there was a comment posting done recently, and Fuad Chaudhary, who is the
former
science and information minister in the previous government, का एक clip था, and वो बता रहा है कि we know when the moon comes out and we know how to measure it. हम predict कर सकते हैं, और ये वो अच्छा, ये उसके मुंह से अल्फाज निकल रहे हैं. मुझे ये उसके अल्फाज याद हैं जब उसने कहा था. इन्होंने इसको इस तरह से अडेप्ट किया हुआ था. देयर इज अ श्रिल shrieking news commentator in India saying, putting this forward as evidence of how Pakistan has always been belittling their moon program, their lunar program, their lunar landing programs. और ये post किया हुआ था, and it was posted, and it was one of those posts which has been forwarded many times. Right. So ये किसी ने clip बनाया हुआ था, और ये, and it was being fed, and all my friends, my Indian friends on this would accept this without question.
Yeah.
मैंने कहा कि ये clip मुझे याद है, और ये clip फवाद चौधरी मौलवियों की बात कर रहा था कि हमें वो जो कॉमिकल तस्वीरें थी कि वो हमारी हुर्रत हलाल कमेटी या जो वो मून साइटिंग कमेटी वो दूरबीन से देख रही है, चांद नजर आया नहीं, वो सेइंग दैट लुक वी डोंट नीड टू डू दिस. उस क्लिप को, वेदर यू एग्री विद व्हाट ही वाज सेइंग और नॉट, उस क्लिप को निकाल के उन्होंने इस तरह से, माय वाइफ इज इंडियन, ओके, यूनिवर्सिटी. Way back then, met in the first year and got married, and very happily married, except when it's mango season and cricket season. And so I have I can see, आप जो polarization की बात कर रहे हैं ना, you have a very strange leader in India today, and fascism के अंदर ना, fascism works. It's a tool to unify people and make them face a certain direction. और उनको उस direction के अंदर face करते हुए, to make them stay facing that direction, you need a whipping boy. आपको एक तबका चाहिए, आपको कुछ चाहिए जिसको आप vilify कर सकें. नाज़ी जर्मनी के अंदर it was the Jews, it was the Slavs, the Jews in particular. और उनको मार के उनका भूसा निकाल दिया. इंडिया के अंदर अभी the whipping boys are the Muslims.
Right.
ठीक है. I'm saying it the way I see it.
Right.
he's a incredibly effective leader. Look at what's happening right now. G20 meeting हो रही है इंडिया के अंदर, ये वो सारा कुछ, rising India. The guy is the butcher of Gujarat. That's all been written off. He has his visas to revisit the United States and everything else. His unquestioning loyalty that he's breeding is built around creating this boogeyman, this whipping boy, this tabka, this Baghairat Musliman population that is always got evil intentions.
Yeah,
it's necessary to keep your message and your audience collected together.
Do you think काफ़ी दफ़ा ना मैं, and I was born in 1990, so a few years after what I'm about to mention, but I find a lot of parallels between what Modi is doing in today's India and what Zaigham Haque did in the 80s का Pakistan. More often than not, अगर आप उस वक्त के particularly उस क्लास पे जाए ना जिन्होंने पैन इस्लामिक मूवमेंट को इंटरनलाइज किया पोस्ट ज़ियाउल हक, वो फिर बॉस्नियन वॉर एंड देन बहुत सारी उन चीज़ों पे वो गए, उनके दिमाग में पाकिस्तान वाज ऑन द परफेक्ट डायरेक्शन एंड इट वाज राइजिंग एंड इट वाज ग्रोइंग. एंड 80s में अगर हम GDP के नंबर्स भी देखें, हम ग्लोबल स्टैंडिंग में भी देखें, जी अमेरिका आके हमसे बातें कर रहे हैं, हम एक सुपर पावर को तबाह कर रहे हैं, तो आज मुझे भी इंडिया उसी तरह नज़र आ रहा है कि बहुत ग्रो कर रहा है, बहुत राइज कर रहा है, सारा कुछ कर रहा है. बट अंडर द शाइनी सरफेस देयर आर अ लॉट ऑफ सिमरिंग प्रॉब्लम्स दैट यू सी. वो चांद पे जिस दिन जाते हैं उससे अगले दिन एक वीडियो आती है कि कोई 10 लोग किसी को लिंच कर रहे हैं, या वो कोई औरत है उसको मार रहे हैं, या रेप हो रहा है. एंड सो पाकिस्तान में भी इन अ लॉट ऑफ वेज व्हाट हैपेंड इन द 80s, जिसको उसको खामोशी से एक्सेप्ट किया गया बिकॉज मुल्क बड़ी एक तरक्की की राह पे गामजन था. बट फिर हमारे 2000s थे जिसमें हमने, मेरी जनरेशन ने उसका खमियाजा भुगता, राइट. जब हमने देखा कि जब इस तरह की टेंशन्स अनअबेटेड आप जाने देते हो, तो आज तो वो नॉर्मल सी बातें लगती हैं कि यार हाँ ठीक है, हम एक डिबेट कर रहे हैं, हम डिबेट में उनके बारे में कुछ बुरा बुरा कह रहे हैं. बट जब जनरेशन्स राइज करती हैं इन एनवायरनमेंट्स में, दैट्स व्हेन यू सी ट्रू एक्सट्रीमिज्म टू राइज एज वेल. डू यू थिंक कि जो द सॉर्ट ऑफ fascist tendencies कह लें that are being displayed not just in India and a lot of other countries as well, but looking at India, do you think they will sustain? Because Pakistan के experience में हमने ये देखा है कि eventually they boil over, and हमारी तो एक 1% population थी, हमने वो 1% को पहले उठाया, फिर हमने sects के दरमियान में करना शुरू कर दिया, जो कि let's say 30% versus 70%. इंडिया में तो population sizable है, मतलब उसमें अगर मुस्लिम है तो 20% है, क्रिश्चियन है तो 5% है, so उनको वेरीफाई करना, उनको दीवार के साथ लगाना doesn't seem that easy or that sustainable in my opinion. What do you think?
Modi is almost certainly going to get re-elected. Maybe with a lesser majority. उसकी opposition decimated है. उसका एजेंडा अभी मुकम्मल नहीं हुआ एंड वो चलता जा रहा है. जो जिन बातों की आप जिक्र करें ना कि यहाँ पे लिंचिंग होगी, यहाँ पे ये किया गया वगैरह, ये हम लोगों को पता है, ठीक है, और हम लोगों को ये बातें चुभती भी हैं. एंड हम लोगों को वी रिकग्नाइज ईच वन ऑफ दीज इंसिडेंट्स व्हेन दे गेट रिपोर्टेड कि इस बंदे बेचारे के हाथ में एक गाय को कहीं उसको पकड़ के जो भी किया. I also see, I won't talk about that, but I think that this is not changing in a hurry. I think that he's got his electoral base cemented. Satisfied, yeah. And उसको वो कहीं जाने नहीं वाला. और अजीब सा बेस है उसका, जो इलेक्टोरल बेस है ना, उसने दो तरह से उसको मैनेज किया हुआ है. एक तरह से उसने जो पब्लिक जो है ना, जो मैन ऑन द स्ट्रीट जिसके पास इतनी दो पैसे हैं जेब में, उनको वो होप देता है थ्रू, और कहता है जा मुसलमानों को मारो, तो उनको मोबिलाइज इस तरह से किया हुआ है. दूसरी तरह से द वेल्थी बिजनेस कम्युनिटी ऑफ इंडिया को उसने बड़ा खुश रखा हुआ है. और जो उसके साथ जो उसको अपोज करते हैं उसको वो डिस्ट्रॉय कर देता है. वो NDTV के साथ उसने जो हशर किया था, जो उसके साथ इंगेज नहीं रहता, they're not if you do engage with him and he becomes your benefactor.
Do you see similar parallels in Pakistan today as well?
No, I think आप जो fascism की बात कर रहे थे ना, ज़ियाउल हक का जो असर हुआ था, I think ज़ियाउल हक actually was given the license to do what he did a little bit by his predecessor, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. जो यार जुल्फ़िकार अली भुट्टो ने 2-3 हरकतें की थी जो हमें कभी करनी नहीं चाहिए थी. He is the person who declared Ahmadis non-Muslim. And he's the reason that we have to sign a declaration on our passports, whether we want to or not, if we want a passport. He opened that door. And Zaigham Haque just walked in happily and took advantage of it with his tik-tikis and his whippings and his whatever. I think we're at a very interesting crossroads at the moment. I think whatever happens, Pakistan is not going to be the same. Whatever happens.
Whether good or bad.
I don't know what good or bad is anymore. Sometimes people ask, I don't know how to explain this. I want to be a good Pakistani, and I don't know how to be one. I don't know what it means anymore. And it's really hurtful.
Do you still have a Pakistani passport?
Of course. And so do my children. And sometimes I think I made a mistake with them, but I don't know how to be a good Pakistani. किस तरह से अच्छा पाकिस्तानी अभी
क्या है? What's the definition?
उसका मतलब क्या है? मुझे सच्ची मुच्ची नहीं पता. 5 साल पहले adore your armed forces, right? Support Imran Khan. He wants to do good for the country. Corruption को बंद करो. These were obvious tick marks. आप इसको tick off करते हैं. I thought that was the profile of a good Pakistani.
Yeah.
All right. Somebody who wants a reversal. जो आप कह रहे हैं ना 30 सालों से जो हमारे हर human development measure के अंदर हम गिर गए हैं ना, where we were the dominant country in South Asia to becoming we're trailing Afghanistan now. Our currency is trailing Afghanistan. So from there, that जो हमारा fall from grace हुआ है ना 30 सालों में, it's staggering, it's bewildering. But I think we are at this crossroads where it will never be the same again. Whatever happens. And I'm not saying whatever happens is good or bad because I don't know how to measure that anymore. Lekin whether we go quasi-martial law or whether we go back to a democracy, I think in all, whatever the outcome is, it's not going to be the same. If we go to a quasi-martial law, it will not be with an adoring populace. It will not be. And I'm confused. Sachi muchi मैं confused हूँ. I think I try to read a diverse range of sources ताकि मुझे एक balanced picture मिले और मैं उसे से कुछ conclusions निकाल सकूँ. अभी मुझे conclusions निकालना मेरे लिए बड़ा मुश्किल हो गया है. I don't know what to think.
Makes sense. So UK में you graduated and you mentioned कि आपने उसके बाद CA किया. Did you do your CA immediately after graduation or did you work somewhere first?
In those days you did CA meant you worked. You became what was called an article clerk.
Right.
Which meant a slave. And so you joined a firm of accountants and आप उधर वो this was pre-computers,
Right.
So and you did it the hard way. So you worked long hours and then you had to take atrocious exams. उस ज़माने में पता है इतना अजीब सा सिचुएशन था. उस ज़माने में मेडिकल स्कूल के अंदर दाखिला लेना बड़ा मुश्किल होता था. लेकिन एक दफ़ा आप मेडिकल स्कूल के अंदर दाखिला आपको मिल जाए तो आपने डॉक्टर बन जाना है. ठीक है. उस ज़माने में CA के अंदर घुसना बड़ा आसान था. आपको किसी के साथ यारी दोस्ती, कोई भी छोटी मोटी फर्म या बड़ी फर्म हो, you would get your articles, you would get your training contract, whatever it was, easily. लेकिन उसके अंदर से qualification rate जो थी ना, I remember when I did my CA, the first time qualification rate was 6%. यानी कि 94% of the people would be failing.
Wow.
So easy to get into, impossible to qualify.
And how many years was this program?
It was, as a postgraduate, it was a 3-year program. I did it in 4.
Right. Okay. And then so you did your sort of articleship, would you call it?
Articles के मैंने अपने qualified, and soon after qualifying I came to Dubai.
Acha. Why did that happen? And this is early 90s or late 80s or?
Late 80s.
Right.
Late 80s.
So I mean, Dubai तो क्या होगा उस time पे?
Oh, इतना अच्छा, पता है इतना मज़ेदार होता था Dubai. You could park anywhere. That was one of the nice things about Dubai. उस ज़माने में
Were there still like big buildings and fancy restaurants, or was it just like a small town?
It was a small town. There was one shopping mall, Gurer Center. अभी और shopping malls कोई नहीं थे. उसके बाद फिर ये बर्जुमान और सिटी सेंटर ये सारे बाद में बने. उस वक्त गुरेर सेंटर था जब मैं आया था. Dubai was different. Dubai was a place you came to earn a tax-free income and to accumulate capital.
Right.
ठीक है. So Dubai was a cheap place to live. ठीक है. मैं आया था Dubai and I was working for a very good firm, so I had very good accommodation. I had a 3-bedroom apartment when I came to Dubai in the Galleria, which is next to the Hyatt Regency. It's part of the Hyatt Regency, so it was 5-star accommodations, वगैरह वगैरह.
And you were alone, or were you married?
I was married. I'd been married a little while, and Dina, my wife, was pregnant with our first child. And the उस ज़माने में किराया उसका था 70,000 दिरहम, जो इस तरह का किराया था. ठीक है. अच्छा, अभी 70,000 दिरहम में आपको you know what the cost is. So I'm just telling you that so you get a sense of where. So Dubai was.
और वो main center में था 70,000 का.
It was the Hyatt Regency on the Corniche. ठीक है. So that was Dubai back then. So you came here, और तनख्वाहें भी उस ज़माने में अगर आपकी तनख्वाह 20,000 दिरहम है, 15,000 दिरहम है, तो उसके अंदर से 75%
सेविंग है,
बैंक पे रहता था. ठीक है. So it was a place where you accumulated capital. Now you come to Dubai for the lifestyle.
Yeah.
You don't come to Dubai to accumulate
The city is designed to take every last dime out of you if you...
It's now in the top 7 most expensive cities in the world. So it wasn't like that.
Interesting. And so you came in because you were, again, so now you were a full-time accountant, or were you in a different industry?
No, I'd moved into investment brokerage.
Acha.
So, trading foreign exchange, financial markets, futures, options, वगैरह वगैरह. So I was in that line of work now. It's an interesting line of work. हुआ क्या कि, it sounds very strange, but I really wanted to get out of the UK. I'd been there for a very long time, and it rained a lot in those days, and I just wanted to change. तो मैंने 2-3 जगहों पे अप्लाई किया. मैंने प्रोफेशन के अंदर, as in the audit profession, I applied for jobs in Dubai, and I applied for jobs in Bermuda. And it was because the lifestyle in Bermuda in those days was you wore Bermuda shorts to work with a tie. You went on a moped, and unka jo recruitment brochure tha na, they said, bring golf clubs. Even if you don't play, you will.
And I mean, Bermuda is all the way Caribbean island. Right?
It is, but the problem with it was that Bermuda in those days had terribly tight exchange controls. Okay. So, that meant whatever, it was expensive, it was isolated, and it was far away. And I'd already been away from Pakistan for 10 years, and दुबई का फ़ायदा ये था कि मैं घंटे में पाकिस्तान पहुंच सकता हूँ. मेरे माँ बाप मुझे मिलने आ सकते थे, my brothers and sisters. So it just tied me much closer to my family. So that was the reason, the trigger to come to Dubai.
So this was a new job that you took, not a posting of sorts.
No, it was a job I was doing in the UK, which brought me to open up their operation over here.
Right. Zabardast. And how long did you work there for?
Not very long. Soon after I came to Dubai, जो मेरे UK employees थे ना, they ran into some city scandal जो मैं दुबई में बैठ के टीवी पे न्यूज़ पे देख रहा होता था. So अच्छा, and that Dubai was such a different Dubai as a Pakistani, you know. जब मैं दुबई आया था ना 1988 में, the biggest financial institution here, the Dada, was BCCI. Okay. उसका जो एमिरेट्स ऑफशूट था BCCE, फिर जो UNB बैंक बन गया वगैरह वगैरह. ठीक है. Senior management positions were white or Pakistani. It doesn't sound real. जो मैं कह रहा हूँ ना, you can't relate to it ना. You can't relate to it.
बड़ा दुख होता है वैसे. मैं आप ऑनेस्ट बताऊँ ना तो मुझे आपको तो शायद ज़्यादा होता होगा बिकॉज आपने तो देखा है. I would love to live in a world where this is a reality. As someone who's always grown up with the idea that हम तो loser third class citizens of the world हैं, the idea, things that you're saying are just. Was it real?
Maybe I was overly patriotic. मुझे नहीं पता.
No, but I mean, my father was a banker. I've heard of BCCI. I've heard of what it was and what it meant at the time, and it makes you wonder. How could things have gone wrong so incredibly?
BCCI, Emirates Airline शुरू हुई.
Yeah.
मेरे classmates were the leading pilots in it, you know. उनका हाथ पकड़ के उनको शुरू करवा रहे हैं, you know. All this type of stuff.
If Pakistanis were so well established, I don't know, मैं अब tinfoil hat पहनता हूँ और conspiracy theory realm में आता हूँ, but what happened there, right? Like, was it like a globally क्या हमारे साथ pushback हुआ? क्योंकि clearly there were smart Pakistanis. देखिए आखिर में होता क्या है कि कौम ना एस्पिरेशन पे चलती है, राइट? मैं पिछले 10 साल आपको पाकिस्तान का बताता हूँ, 15 साल कर लें. These are the years when I've also graduated. I've gone from, let's say, अगर 20 साल पिछले लगा लें, from high school to university to job market. एस्पिरेशन कौम की ये थी कि यार पढ़े से पढ़ा लिखा बच्चा ग्रेजुएट करे और जो सबसे स्मार्टेस्ट निकलेगा ना वो प्रॉपर्टी में लग जाए. और प्रॉपर्टी का धंधा आपको पता है कि it's dirty and it's, you know.
Yeah.
I remember I spoke to Abdurrazak Daud Saab recently. And when he was speaking, there's a lot of that similar vibe when I'm speaking to you as well. When he was speaking and when you're speaking, तो मुझे ये हो रहा था कि यार हमारे बड़े ऐसे क्यों नहीं थे, हमें क्यों नहीं ऐसे बड़े नज़र आए. गायब थे, ऐसे लोग गायब थे. आप गायब थे, अब्दुर्रज़ाक दाऊद साहब गायब थे, पीछे बैठे हुए थे. इन अ लॉट ऑफ वेज इस तरह के जो पढ़े लिखे जिन्होंने अखलाकियाती इक़दार बनाने थे माशरे के अंदर, जिन्होंने वो SOPs बनाने थे, वो डर के पीछे हो गए. और एक न्यू मनी क्राउड राइज हुआ जिसके जो फंडामेंटल्स ही ख़राब थे. और फिर एक या दो ऐसी पूरी जनरेशन्स बड़ी हुई जिन्होंने सिर्फ देखा ही इन लोगों को कि यार अगर सक्सेसफुल होना है, अगर पैसे वाला होना है, अगर पावरफुल होना है, तो दीज आर द आइडियल्स टू फॉलो, राइट? सो मुझे इस चीज़ की समझ नहीं आती कि हम बैंकर्स की बात करते हैं, पाकिस्तानी बैंकर्स वर एवरीवेयर. हम साइंटिस्ट्स की बात करते हैं तो हमारे साइंटिस्ट्स वर एवरीवेयर. स्पोर्ट्समैन, यू स्पोक अबाउट दैट अर्लियर एज वेल. बट समहाउ we weren't able to remain connected with them, celebrate them. Somehow, most of those people, when you hear their stories, they left. They weren't there as people for younger generations to emulate. Why do you think that happened? And tinfoil hat मेरा जो comment था वो इस वजह से था कि do you think there was ये कोई हम global साजिश के नतीजे में हम रॉन्ग पर्सन एट द रॉन्ग टाइम, रॉन्ग प्लेस एट द रॉन्ग टाइम वाली बात है कि दरमियान में थे, रशिया US चल रहा था, उसमें मार खा ली, पैन इस्लामिक का राइज एंड फॉल हुआ, उसमें मार खा ली, इस तरह की चीज़ें हुई एंड देन वी सॉर्ट ऑफ नेवर रिकवर्ड. व्हाट डू यू थिंक?
I don't think it was a sustained conspiracy that brought us to where we are. I think serious conspiracies are what happened in Iran with Mossadegh to the Shah. That's a serious conspiracy. That's blatant interference. Serious conspiracy, whether you like him or not, is what the French and the Brits did to Gaddafi in Libya. ठीक है, and look at the country today. So these were serious conspiracies. Mossadegh, perhaps the most sinister, and our politics has failed us. Our politics has failed us. It's not the expatriates who, I'm telling you about the glory days in Dubai. That's not where the problem is. Our glory days in Dubai have collapsed when Pakistanis don't have that position of respect or whatever that they may have had once, and many of them do. So let me not paint this with the universal brush, but वो visibility have certainly greatly diminished हो गई है, ठीक है? लेकिन मेरे ख्याल में इसका मसला, the fault, dear Brutus, lies in ourselves. ये हमारी अपनी गलतियाँ हैं सारी. ये हम गलतियाँ we played, back and forth with types of governments. The expression of the people has found no outlet anywhere. There's, in a world which has been growing, why have we been diminishing? It's not just a conspiracy theory. It's not just a determination to keep a nuclear, large Muslim country at bay. I think I'm not saying that there are not elements of that, but I don't think that's the fundamental issue. Fundamental issue हमारी कहीं और है. वो हम में खुद में है. Whether it was a brain drain and a lot of good people left when they shouldn't have, whether it is I think it's more about our governance, this mix of governance, greed. Look at Iran, which is our neighbor, ठीक है? And अगर आप ईरान जाए ना और आप उसके, I haven't, but my father has, and lots of my friends, in fact friends of mine have just done a motoring trip through there. They talk about the pride of the villagers, the civic sense of keeping themselves clean, वगैरह वगैरह. Thailand जाएं.
And by the way, this is an Iran that is genuinely subjected to a foreign conspiracy के पूरी दुनिया ने उनको बंद किया हुआ है.
You go to Thailand, not a rich country, but when you get away from the big cities and you go through their countryside, there's a sense of civic pride, etc. And maybe this is too much of an armchair theory of mine, but मुझे लगता है कि when you read our history and you read how badly we had our spirit broken, and the way in which our colonial masters subjugated us. अगर मैं आपके साथ आपको मिलने आया हूँ, अगर मेरे हाथ में चिट्ठी नहीं ना जो मुझे बैठने की इजाज़त दे, तो मैं बैठ नहीं सकता, ठीक है? Our military disciplines go back not to our Mughal or other eras, they go back to creating militias to collect taxes, okay? We are that is why we are culturally different in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka to an Iran or a Thailand.
Right. Do you think it's a generational trauma or a civilizational problem जो के couple of generations in नहीं fix होगा? वो it's going to take its sweet time because of the fact कि वो 200-250 साल in the making था.
It expresses itself differently in different places. So it's expressing itself differently in India. India के अंदर आपको एक Hindu masculinity नज़र आ रही है, ठीक है? And that's an ugly reaction to their colonial, वो अपनी colonial subjugation की जिम्मेदारी मुसलमानों पे लगा रहे हैं. For example, not present Musliman, but Mughals and their predecessors, etc. कि ये सारा गंदबला उधर से शुरू हुआ है. In our case, we have the dirty Punjab police syndrome,
Yeah.
So we different manifestations, different reactions. We need, and it is a generational thing. Cultural change कल्चर चेंज करने के लिए आपको 2 चीज़ें चाहिए. आपको रूल्स चाहिए जिनके ब्रेकेज पे आपके ऊपर सख्त पेनल्टीज हों, एंड यू नीड टाइम. दीज आर द 2 थिंग्स दैट चेंज अ कल्चर. रूल्स विद strict enforcement for duration.
Do you think इसमें मैं last comment on this, but because I'm trying to club things together, you mentioned early on about this potentially fascist field world rising, this anomaly that we experienced, a blip in the timeline, and now we're going back to our roots. इसको अगर मैं contextualize करूँ ना, तो हमने कम्युनिज्म देखा, हमने कैपिटलिज्म देखा. कैपिटलिज्म बड़ा क्लियरली विनर नज़र आया, और कैपिटलिज्म चला रहा था, डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्रीज़ वर ड्राइविंग कैपिटलिज्म. सो वो साथ ना एज अ साइड ऑर्डर आपको डेमोक्रेसी भी मिल गई. ओवर द लास्ट 20-30 ईयर्स उस डेमोक्रेसी की चीज़ को पीटा भी बहुत गया है कि डेमोक्रेसी के खाते में दिल किया घुस गए. और हमने ये भी देखा कि ग्लोबल साउथ एंड पर्टिकुलरली डेवलपिंग वर्ल्ड के अंदर डेमोक्रेसी, सिर्फ डेमोक्रेसी देने से दुनिया नहीं बदली, राइट? लाइक, और पर्टिकुलरली जो ऐसी कंट्रीज थी जिनको लार्ज स्केल रेडिकल चेंजेस चाहिए थे, उधर जब आपने डेमोक्रेसी दी, तो डेमोक्रेसी मोर ऑफन देन नॉट is a system that has evolved historically in the most advanced states, जहाँ पर you become too big to fail, and to ensure कि चुटकी बजा के कोई आके सब decades of advancement को तबाह नहीं कर देगा, तो आप कहते थे कि यार everybody needs to have a buy-in, and when the majority agrees then we'll move forward. जब आप वो अंडर डेवलप्ड इकोनॉमीज़ में लेकर आते हैं, तो सब लड़ते ही रहते हैं कि यार हमें गेटिंग द मेजॉरिटीज बाय इन टू हैव रेडिकल चेंज मोर ऑफन देन नॉट इज़ एक्सट्रीमली डिफिकल्ट. और इसी टाइम के ऊपर हमने सर्टन राइज देखा. हमने राइज देखा चाइना का, इनक्रेडिबली अथॉरिटेरियन बट एन इनक्रेडिबल राइज. हमने मिडल ईस्ट का राइज देखा, सिमिलर डायनामिक्स. हमने मलेशिया का देखा, एक प्राइम मिनिस्टर या प्रेसिडेंट, प्राइम मिनिस्टर था आई थिंक उनका, 27 साल रह के जाता है और वो पूरा का पूरा जो है वो बना देता है उस कंट्री को. और जो हमारे यंग लोग हैं आजकल के, जब वो ऑनेस्ट टू गॉड मुतालिया कर रहे हैं, तो अब वो कह रहे हैं कि यार शायद मे बी डेमोक्रेसी इज़न्ट द बेस्ट, राइट? एंड देन व्हेन यू लुक एट लेट्स से पाकिस्तान, तो क्वेश्चन आता है कि डू वी नीड डेमोक्रेसी, or should we be looking at, let's say, a Chinese model of governance or a Middle Eastern model of governance where, like you said, sustained policies with an iron fist of sorts, जो कि उस population को करे. क्योंकि हमने चाइना में ये देखा, उनकी भी थकी हुई population थी, वो ओपियम वॉर्स में मार खाए हुए थे, उन्होंने जापान ने उसके बाद उनको फिर मारा, उनकी जो सेल्फ इस्टीम थी वो भी तबाह हो चुकी थी, उनकी जो विल थी वो भी तबाह हो चुकी थी. कम्युनिज्म ने बचा कुचा जो था वो भी ख़त्म कर दिया. बट देन समवेयर एक सेट ऑफ पीपल राइज एंड दे रैली द एंटायर पॉपुलेशन विद देम, एंड टुडे चाइना इज़ ऑन इट्स वे टू बिकम द मोस्ट पावरफुल सिविलाइजेशन इन हिस्ट्री इन द फ्यूचर मे बी. What are your thoughts? अगर मैं आपसे as developing countries, underdeveloped countries, third world, global south के बारे में पूछूं तो?
No, there's a lot of truth in what you're saying. You take Singapore from nothing to where it is today. Take South Korea, corrupt as hell also, but only recently a democracy. All right. So I think to bring about change, you need, without doubt, very strong leadership. Now, if you take the Chinese model, it's a one-party state, all right? So you got the Communist Party, and it's a collegiate system. यानी कि आप कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी की मेंबरशिप लेते हैं, और फिर वक्त के साथ अगर आपके पास थोड़ी सी एबिलिटी हो, थोड़ा सा आपके रिलेशनशिप स्किल्स अच्छे हों वगैरह, आप तरक्की करते हैं. एंड eventually you'll get to union level, you'll get to district level. Eventually, if you're very lucky, you might even become a mayor. Now, to become a mayor of a Chinese city is that you're becoming a mayor of a 20-30 million population, bigger than most countries in the world.
Yeah.
And eventually from that you become a part of the senior middle tier leadership of the Communist Party until you become a senior leader. Now, that person has not got any democratic credentials behind them. They have gone up in a collegiate system, and that is what rules. there is an argument here कि a mayor of a second tier Chinese city has more public service experience than Obama had when he became the president of the United States. So who should be the president of the United States?
Yeah.
So I think the thing is, whatever the system, there's a need for strong leadership. Your argument about democracy is कि democracy से आपकी leadership compromise होनी शुरू हो जाती है. There's this expression that the greatest threat to climate change and global warming is democracy, because democratic countries who are the biggest polluters on this planet will not take the hard decision जो लेने की ज़रूरत है उनको, क्योंकि वो उनके गवर्नमेंट्स निकल जाएंगे. वो अगर गैस टैरिफ्स बढ़ाएं, ये करें, वो करें, जो भी उन्होंने करें, they are the biggest polluters in the world. Pakistan is not a major polluter, but the biggest polluters in the world, if they take steps to curb their greenhouse gases, their carbon footprints, etc., तो क्या कहते हैं, उनकी तो हुकूमतें दो दिनों में गिर जाएंगी. And so democracy is a threatening force in that way. We need strong leadership. Any country needs strong leadership to take it from A to B. Strong leadership का मतलब ये है कि take tough decisions. ठीक है. पाकिस्तान के अंदर हमारे पास strong leadership भी हुई थी. मुझे अभी तक याद है जब मुशर्रफ आया था नवाज शरीफ को हटा के, एक यूफोरिया था for a while in the country. उसने अपने इर्द गिर्द इतने अच्छे लोगों को रखा था. Who is his information minister? जावेद जब्बार को उसने रखा. इस तरह के and उसका हारून or whatever, the minister for science. I still remember going to a forum over here and उसने लैपटॉप खोला था मुशर्रफ के and उससे ऊपर yes, your minister of science knows how to use a laptop. इस तरह के लोग थे. And big expectations, and then he compromised. उसकी कुर्सी उसको प्यारी होगी, and the rest is history. ठीक है. So that's not strong leadership. Strong leadership is taking hard decisions. Sometimes you need the support of a population. मेरे ख्याल में पाकिस्तान के अंदर जो हमारे अभी desperate हालात हो गए हैं, उसके अंदर without engaging the population, जिसके ऊपर इतनी सख्ती अभी आनी है, अगर वो आपके साथ मिल के इसको हल करने का तरीका नहीं निकालेंगे तो आप what are you going to do? What are you going to do? How are you going to take hard decisions जिसमें आपने सबको कहना अपनी पेटियां कसना शुरू करें? कौन करेगा अगर आपकी लीडरशिप के अंदर बिलीफ ना हो? And where is that? So how do you get that leadership? How do you get that leadership? We know through military intervention we don't have a solution. We don't have a solution. ठीक है. Ayub Khan, his golden years were golden. By the way, that's Pakistan's only economic boom cycle. But the boom is not policy, it's the Korean War. That was the trigger behind our boom, the Korean War and our geolocation. Uske baad Yahya was a disaster. Zaigham Haque was whatever. Musharraf was a terrible disappointment. अभी हमारी क्वेज़ाई मार्शल लॉ एक चल रही है. I don't think that's the solution. Strong leadership is clearly the need. अब आप उस strong leadership
उसकी manifestation क्या है basically?
क्या है? So what is it?
Without the buy-in of the public, you have to like it's पूरी political economy के हिसाब से बनेगी ना वो leadership. Just a leadership in isolation isn't going to work out.
What does the leadership mean? Leader is somebody people will follow.
Right.
अगर आपको लोग फॉलो करने के लिए तैयार ना हो तो आप किस तरह के लीडर हैं? ठीक है. That means you have to make, right now we need to make very hard decisions. We will, वो कहते हैं ना, eat grass. ठीक है. और लोगों को अगर लोगों को समझाना होगा और उनको समझना पड़ेगा कि इसके अलावा कोई और तरीका नहीं है. लेकिन अगर आप ये करें तो मैं आपको यहाँ से A से B तक पहुँचा दूँगा. I don't know what the answer to that is.
Makes sense. मुझे बताएं 80s, late 80s में you came to Dubai. How long were you working in the sort of finance and investment side? 7 years in that one position you mentioned.
So let's count. If I take the Dow Jones role in place, so 88 में यहाँ मैं आया, and so then after Dow Jones I was in private equity until 99 2000. उसके बाद then I was a businessman.
Why did you switch from private equity to business?
Business.
And what sort of business? Like, tell me that story. What happened there?
So I was working in Dow Jones markets. It was a division of Dow Jones. जो 3-4 साल पहले मुझे न्यूयॉर्क बुलाया था थैंक यू करने के लिए कि मैंने इतना अच्छा परफॉर्मेंस दिखाया, ठीक है. एंड 3 years लेटर जिस डिवीज़न के लिए मैं काम कर रहा था उसको बेचने की बात हो रही थी. वॉरेन बफेट एडवाइज द Bancroft family, who were the majority owners at that time pre Murdoch, कि देखो यार बिहेव लाइक ओनर्स, ये तुम्हारा ये ट्रेलिंग ये लैगिंग ये है, तुम्हारी शेयर प्राइस बस इसको बेचो.
For people who don't know, what's Dow Jones?
Dow Jones is essentially a publisher.
Okay.
So, you know, everyone's heard of the Dow Jones Index, etc., etc. ठीक है? So, it's a publisher. It publishes information. It publishes newspapers. It's the publisher of the Wall Street Journal. It's the publisher of Barron's.
Right.
It was in one of the greatest news partnerships with APDJ, the AP Dow Jones News Service. ठीक है? Used to be a highly respected service. Wall Street Journal used to be a highly credible newspaper. ठीक है. अब ये सारी चीज़ें compromise हो गई. Dow Jones was इतनी publishing houses जो है ना उनके अंदर एक कॉन्सेप्ट होता है द चर्च एंड द स्टेट. ठीक है. द स्टेट इज ये इसको धंधा करके चलाना है, इसमें से मुनाफा निकालना है. दीज आर द ओनर्स ऑफ द बिजनेस. द चर्च इज द एडिटोरियल बोर्ड. उनको उनकी इंटेग्रिटी और इंडिपेंडेंस को आपने मेंटेन करना है. ठीक है, नहीं तो आपकी रेपुटेशन ही नहीं होगी. तो ये जो टसल होता है चर्च और स्टेट का, यार ये छापो, ये हमें एडवर्टाइजिंग रेवेन्यूज बड़े अच्छे देते हैं, नहीं ये कहानी सही नहीं है. सो दैट्स द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. ओके. एंड द Bancroft family had a share structure going back to the origins of Dow Jones, yeah, which was that their shares counted for 2 votes per share, but if they sold a share it counted for 1 vote only. And the reason was कि as long as ये family रहेगी ना ownership में, तो इसकी जो चर्च है ना उसको कोई हाथ नहीं लगाएगा. ठीक है. तो आप मैनेजमेंट जो भी रखें वगैरह वगैरह, चर्च विल बी सैक्रोसेंट. ठीक है. इंडिपेंडेंट रहेगा, ऑनेस्ट रहेगा, सही रिपोर्टिंग करेगा, पॉलिटिकली बायस्ड नहीं होगा. एनीवे, तो then people like Warren Buffett started advising them. Eventually they sold out to Murdoch, and the Wall Street Journal is now just another published rag, like the Times has become. ठीक है. तो they were a publisher. अच्छा, इसके अंदर they used to also publish financial information, and they were a very important publisher of financial information. And this is financial information जो आपको real time deliver होता था. So banks के अंदर trading rooms होते थे, stock houses, ये वो, जहाँ पे live financial information deliver होना चाहिए, जहाँ पे microsecond delay से मुनाफा या नुकसान हो सकता है. Okay. That was the business of Dow Jones markets. That's the business that I was involved in. And that's the business I was setting up in the GCC area, Dow Jones markets. So when they were advised to sell it and they went public, Europe was suffering, UK was suffering, Americas was suffering, Japan was suffering. I was doing great business over here. I was bringing in business hand over fist. I diversified locally into risk management solutions वगैरह वगैरह. I'm not that clever, but my clients were pushing me. तो जो client कहता मैं yes कहता था और मैं कहीं से ढूंढ के ले आता था. So we were growing very aggressively. So that's when I thought, चलो अगर इन्होंने बेचना ही है तो हम खरीद सकते हैं. So, and not the global one, but can we buy our region? And that's when I got together with a VC to fund it. And my management, I actually went to all my managers and I said, yaar, main ye karne ka soch raha hu, are you with me? And without exception, they all said, yes, we are. And so we put a bid for a management buyout of the region. And it was the most exciting, stressful period of my life, which was very interesting when I went to my boss and offered him a job in my future company. I had to leave within a few days of that offer. So because I couldn't run the MBO from inside the company, so I had to actually leave. I exited. I actually took my carton में अपना सामान रख के निकल गया दफ्तर से.
Was it successful eventually, the takeover?
No, it failed. The MBO failed. Okay, right. So just as well, it failed for various reasons. It was a very good offer, but I think we were off pitching to buy a territory, and I think they did a bad sale for the total picture. But it was a bad sale, and Dow Jones' share price didn't change, and it's still stuck in the mid 40s. So. But then they sold to Murdoch, so I don't know what. It's a different company now.
Right. So that didn't work out. What did you do then?
I then worked for the VC, and they were a project developer also. They weren't just a pure VC. So they were a project developer. So I had to earn my keep. So they gave me a project on paper. I had to realize that project. So it was the first call center in Dubai, still operational. I basically I didn't know what call centers were. So nahi pata hota. So just like with Cordon Bleu and all of that, I literally flew to Florida, and where there was the call centers of prospective partners. I went to Europe. Sitel was the biggest. उस वक्त तक अच्छा इस ज़माने में इंडिया अभी उठा नहीं था. Call centers अब सारे इंडिया में बैठे. India wasn't on the horizon at that time. So call centers were an American thing, and they were a European thing. ठीक है. The biggest company was Sitel. तो Sitel से जाके पहले तो मैंने उनका एक call center manager चोरी किया. ठीक है, उसको मैंने हायर किया और फिर बिजनेस प्लान फाइनलाइज करके worked with NCR Lucent and created the first CTI enabled integrated all the bells and whistles call center over here. It was quite a task, and soon after that they had another project in records management and data management, and वो अभी under development था. Lekin, I wasn't in this company because of success. I was in this company because my MBO had failed, right? So I had the money, so I bought that project from them, finalized it, and usko phir maine develop karke I made a company called DocMan for document management. My wife came up with the name. We're still very proud of the name.
और वो करता क्या था essentially?
We had climate control storage facilities in Jabal Ali, media vaults. फिर हम उस ज़माने में अभी ये सारी नई चीज़ें थी. These are all, we're talking about the early noughties. So we're talking about 99, 2000 की बात है, ठीक है?
Right.
And उस ज़माने में business outsourcing was still
it was fresh.
No, you're going to a bank and saying, आप ऐसे करें, आप अपने records मुझे दें, मैं संभाल कर रखता हूँ. तुम पागल हो? तुम्हें अपने confidential, so it was that era.
And these were like, जो आपका business था, that was like sensitive records?
It could have been. I'll tell you, one of the things I used to do was, because we were imaging and scanning based, so we were retained by the Ministry of Education's consultants to optically mark papers. वो नहीं होते वो आप ABC को so we had scanners and things like, so we had to optically mark these papers. So sensitive information, these examination papers sat by children, वो आते थे मेरे facility के अंदर in military escort. आगे आर्म्ड गार्ड्स गाड़ियों में बैठे हुए, पीछे आर्म्ड गार्ड्स गाड़ियों में बैठे हुए डिलीवर कर रहे होते थे. ड्राइव इन, यू नो, मेरे इर्द गिर्द के जितने मेरे नेबर्स थे ना जबल अली फ्री जोन के अंदर, आई थिंक दे यूज्ड टू बिलीव यहाँ पे ड्रग बस्ट हो रहा है. So, and it was so funny. वो जैसे ही हमें पकड़ा देते थे ना, they're not interested. They've done their job. They just
they trusted you enough to
yeah. So sensitive data, confidentiality agreement, सारा कुछ.
Right, and you did that for 7 years, I suppose.
I did. One of the things we did also in that company was we got a contract with Dubai municipality. और Dubai municipality के अंदर जब आप ये building बनाएं या आप बाहर एक गार्ड हाउस बनाएं, उसकी एज बिल ब्लूप्रिंट ड्राइंग आपको दुबई म्यूनिसिपैलिटी में फिजिकली जमा करानी होती थी उनके आर्काइव से डेरा के अंदर. गोडाउन्स के अंदर ये पुराने, यू नो, ब्रेकिंग अप पेपर्स, उन्होंने उसको डिजिटाइज करना था. एवरी पीस ऑफ कंस्ट्रक्शन इन दुबई. And that was one of the projects we did. So we got that project. I had a team of 45 people working on that project for almost 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
And we digitized all of that for Dubai municipality. It was a good thing. Eventually, इसके अंदर I bought in, you know, now I was on the other side now, so I was the business owner. I needed growth capital, तो इसके अंदर फिर मैं Islamic Development Bank and Gulf Finance House ने एक मिलके एक VC बनाया था called Injazat Technology Fund, and I was the first investment. But that became a little acrimonious. उनके जो जिन लोगों ने इन्वेस्ट किया था उनको फायर किया, उनकी जगह थर्ड जनरेशन तक मेरी कोई रिलेशनशिप नहीं रही इन लोगों के साथ. They're being unreasonable. So at that time it wasn't worth the headache. The company was doing really well. It had grown really well, and Aramex were an eager buyer. So it was मैंने उसको फिर उस वक्त तो उनको बेच दिया.
Did you make good money out of it?
It was good money. And all my investors who were, that particular investor who was जो नखरे कर रहा था, they made more money than they made from any of their other investments.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you think when you were growing up, the amount of money that you made eventually, did you ever imagine you'd make that much money? Let me rephrase that question.
Yeah.
Everything that you've achieved, let's not put it in monetary terms. Everything that you've achieved, you're, mashallah, say 63 right now. 40 years ago, could you have imagined the life that you're living today would be the life of your future?
I don't know how to answer that. पता है, मैं आपको बताऊं, जब मैं जवान था, जब मैं स्कूल जाता था, मेरे पास एक ब्राउन जूता था, एक ब्लैक जूता था और एक स्क्वॉश का जूता था और एक गेम्स का जूता था. ठीक है, 4 जूते थे. मेरे पास जीन्स नहीं थी, मेरे पास एक पतलून थी ग्रे और एक थी ब्राउन. एंड मेरी अलमारी में बस इतनी, एंड आई हैड एवरीथिंग आई वांटेड. आई डिडंट. अब मेरे पास चेंजिंग रूम है, यू नो. I don't think I wanted a lot of the things that you end up, you know, you get. Abhi, my wife and I are doing a systematic downsizing of our lives. आसान नहीं है, क्योंकि जब आप अपना पूरा junk, you know, when you're moving from big to less big, which is what we're trying to evolve our way towards. You're getting rid of stuff. Some of it has sentimental value.
Of course.
And you don't want to throw it away, but nobody wants it either. You know?
Yeah.
So we're downsizing. We want our lives to be smaller. I don't think I've been crazy successful. I think I've been successful enough.
चले, मैं क्वेश्चन को थोड़ा सा टेढ़े तरीके से लेकर आता हूँ. Do you think you've lived your life very focused on outcomes, or do you think, or have you been a dreamer, or have you been more of a, I'll see the cards that are dealt and I'll play accordingly?
I think I've always been an optimist. मैंने हमेशा यही सोचा है कि नहीं, ये चलेगा. And even when my back is against the wall and the wolves are at the door, I believed कि नहीं ये ठीक हो जाएगा, इसको ठीक कर सकता हूँ, मैं कर सकता हूँ, you know. So I've always had that very powerful belief. I think you need to be an optimist. अगर आप optimist नहीं है naturally, तो आपको business में नहीं जाना चाहिए. Businessmen should be natural optimists, क्योंकि business 90% of the time तो आपके खिलाफ ही होता है, ठीक है? So you need to be optimistic.
Makes sense. It's interesting because the conversation that I had originally planned was very different, but there's just so much flavor to you that we spent the last 1 hour 30 minutes talking about everything under the sun except for the one thing that we actually got together to discuss. मैं वैसे एक request अगर आपसे कर सकूं, do you think, I know कि already मैंने आपका बड़ा time ले लिया है, but can I borrow you once more on a separate day for another round of a podcast?
If you can tolerate me again.
Oh, I would love to.
Of course, it'd be my pleasure.
In that case, what I would like to do is I would like to wrap this up because 1 hour 30 minutes generally हमारा वो होता है. And then round 2 is where, so Zaigham भाई जो हैं उन्होंने, to give you some context, मैंने intro में भी बोला होगा at some point जो कि मैं भी record करूँगा, but he made the first, we spoke about that earlier as well, the first culinary school in Pakistan. I don't think...
No, there are the culinary institutes, but there's only one SCAFA in Pakistan. I don't say that with arrogance. I say that as a fact. We train people really well. There's nobody like us.
I mean, the sort of stuff that these guys do, it's incredible and it deserves an hour and 30 minutes focused on that. There's just so much to that as well. That's going to be in round 2. I'm going to ask you one question that I'm going to wrap this up with. Early life आपने पाकिस्तान में गुजारी. By and large, for most part, आप फिर यूके में रहे और फिर मिडल ईस्ट में रहे और आगे पीछे घूमते तो रहे हैं दुनिया भर में. By design, you've been an optimist. But जो मुझे आपकी बातों से फील हो रहा है, in terms of Pakistan, you seem fairly confused because variables की समझ नहीं आ रही, right? और जो जनरली मैंने देखा इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकिंग में जो लोग होते हैं ना, वो बड़े हार्ड कोर डेटा ड्रिवन होते हैं, डेटा को उठाते हैं, एनालाइज करते हैं और फिर प्रोजेक्ट करते हैं. अगर मैं आपसे पूछूं आज कि 27 साल के बाद के पाकिस्तान को आप कैसा देखते हैं, based on everything that you know now, seeing all of what you've seen, how do you see Pakistan of 2050?
Okay. मैं उस दिन ये slightly मेरे लिए controversial, but I have a growing respect. आयशा सदीका को मैं सुन रहा था and she said Pakistan has several possible outcomes. यहाँ पे सबसे बुरा outcome हमारे लिए है कि हम एक नॉर्थ कोरिया ना बन जाए. That is the bad outcome. ठीक है? That is an outcome which we're seeing some signs of right now. जो सबके मुंह बंद किए जा रहे हैं, जो हम हंसते हैं ना नॉर्थ कोरिया के ऊपर, जो उनके नाटक होते हैं, हम जो हमारे नाटक हैं कि इसका नाम नहीं लिया जा सकता, उसको अबू ये और ये वो सारा दिस टाइप ऑफ नॉनसेंस जिस पे दुनिया हंसती है. That's our worst case outcome. ठीक है? अब
medium case?
Medium case outcome is कि we plod along as we are. No significant change. We don't improve much.
But the downside to that is that left and right, the century of Asia, everybody is improving. So the difference will be very, very stark in the coming years.
We will be a population of underskilled, unwanted people on the international stage. जो हम लेबर एक्सपोर्ट की बात करते हैं ना, हमारा लेबर डिज़ायरेबल भी तो होना चाहिए ना. तो कंस्ट्रक्शन बूम जहाँ पे हो रहेंगे हम वहाँ लोगों को भेज देंगे, जहाँ पे उनको लड़ाई पीस कीपर्स चाहिए वहाँ पे हम लोग भेज देंगे. बट उसके अलावा हम सो दैट्स द मीडियम आउटकम. पॉजिटिव आउटकम इज़ एंड इट्स पॉसिबल is we do get strong leadership for a duration. Strong leadership for a duration. हमारे पास कोई क्विक फिक्सेस नहीं है. हमें सस्टेन पॉलिसीज़ चाहिए जो जिनका टेन्योर 10-15 साल होना चाहिए. उससे ये 3 साल की साइकिल के अंदर हमारा कुछ नहीं बनने वाला जहाँ पे हम हैं अभी. I'm gunning for that option कि हमारा हमें कहीं से स्ट्रॉन्ग लीडरशिप मिले. मुझे पता है अगर हमें स्ट्रॉन्ग लीडरशिप कहीं से मिल जाए ना, लोग इतने एक हमें एक्सपैट्स जो पाकिस्तान के अंदर जो हमारी पॉपुलेशन है, आई थिंक दे वांट टू रैली अराउंड समबडी. उनको कोई एक झंडा चाहिए जिसके इर्द गिर्द जमा हो जाएं. अभी तंग आ गए. सो if we have that strong leadership, I don't know who it is, I'm not saying it's Imran Khan or whatever, but I think that's what we need.
And इसी के follow up में, if I were to ask you, you spoke about earlier off camera कि मिडल ईस्ट अभी महंगाई, दुबई में बड़ी महंगाई है और आपने कहा कि आने वाले वक्त में शायद महंगाई और ज़्यादा बढ़े. What's your outlook for the Middle East and overall the world in these turbulent times अगर इकोनॉमिक्स की बात की जाए तो?
I think मिडल ईस्ट प्रॉस्पर करेगा. मिडल ईस्ट का जो बड़ा थ्रेट जो है ना इज़ क्लाइमेट चेंज. आई थिंक ख़ास तौर पे दुबई के लिए दुबई नीड्स टू बी हैबिटेबल. अगर दुबई के अंदर आप सिर्फ मॉल्स के अंदर ज़िंदा रह सकते हैं ना, तो फिर दुबई दैट्स अ चैलेंज दैट आई थिंक दुबई स्पेसिफिकली विद इन द GCC इज़ मोस्ट एक्सपोज टू. अदर देन दैट जो आप कह रहे हैं इन्वेस्टमेंट्स वगैरह जो हो रही हैं यहाँ पे, एंड यू पुट इट वेरी इंटरेस्टिंगली, यू डिस्क्राइब्ड इट एज द यूरोप इन 10 years from today it will be Europe. And Europe will probably be a less desirable place to want to live in. So I think prognosis for this part of the world is good. Climate change is a serious threat. It may become a bit of a rich man's playground though. सो जितने लोग आपको सड़क पे नज़र आते हैं ना, जो ये बिल्डिंग्स बना रहे हैं, शायद इनकी जगह ना हो, ये इनकी जगह ना हो शायद कुछ सालों के बाद.
महंगाई के बारे में आपका क्या ख्याल है ओवरऑल? यू टॉकिंग अबाउट commodities going even higher.
Yeah.
What's
I think
happening
that's I think we are entering we're entering into जो हम कहते हैं 2 साल पहले एक कमोडिटी सुपर साइकिल हुई थी, एग्जैसर्बेटेड बाय द यूक्रेन रशिया वॉर. उनका जो बाल्टिक एग्रीमेंट है उसमें से हट गया है. यूक्रेनियन वीट कांट कम आउट. ये चीज़ें सारी हैं. उसके साथ आप ग्लोबल इफेक्ट्स को देखें, जो तबाहियाँ आ रही हैं अभी, ये
environment की
destruction of crops etc. So food shortages are going to push prices up. Our population is growing up. 2050 तक the global population is going to hit 10 billion. It will hit 10 billion by 2050. But food production may be adversely affected. तो गरीब मुल्कों में लोग भूखे रह जाएंगे और वो मैल नरिशमेंट फैल सकती है. So these are the challenges, and I think and an outcome of insufficient supply is rising prices. So I think कीमतें चढ़ती जाएंगी इसके अंदर. और and one of the things is food security, and food security के अंदर we have to be very careful. Pakistan has to be very careful. हमारे जो financial difficulties है ना, उसके अंदर हम अपनी फूड प्रोडक्शन को बड़ी आसानी से ट्रेड कर सकते हैं. और ये जो डील्स बन रही हैं मिडल ईस्ट के अंदर वगैरह, ये लोग अपनी फूड सिक्योरिटी सिक्योर करना चाह रहे हैं. एंड दे नीड पीपल हु विल कंसीड प्रोडक्शन टू देम. वी हैव टू बी केयरफुल.
Sir, thank you so much. This was incredible. One of the favorite conversations I've done in the past year or so. I look forward to having you again. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you.
And for all of you guys, thank you so much for watching. अगर आपको ये एपिसोड पसंद आई और अपने दोस्तों के साथ ज़रूर शेयर करें. YouTube वाले लाइक का बटन दबाएंगे, engagement बढ़ेगी, ज़्यादा लोगों तक हमारी कॉन्वर्सेशन पहुंचेगी. ऑडियो प्लेटफॉर्म वाले सब्सक्राइब का बटन दबाएंगे, आने वाले एपिसोड्स की आपको नोटिफिकेशन मिलेगी. इसी के साथ साथ नीचे कमेंट सेक्शन में मुझे आके बताएं, what do you think about everything we talked about? What do you, if you've grown up in the UK, what was UK like for you? आपको ओवरऑल मिडल ईस्ट के बारे में क्या तासुरात हैं, जो हमने इतनी सारी पाकिस्तान के बारे में डिस्कशन की, इंडिया के बारे में. इंडिया की जब हमारी डिस्कशन होती है, एंड आई विल ट्राई कि मैं अपनी टीम से बोलूँगा कीवर्ड भी कोई इंडिया का इंटीग्रेट कर दें, बिकॉज देयर इज़ अ लॉट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट दैट कम्स इन. आई वुड लव टू हेयर योर थॉट्स. एक चीज़ मैं सिर्फ ये बोलूँगा, अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स जब इंडिया से लोग आते हैं, वो एक परसेप्शन लेकर आते हैं और वो उस परसेप्शन पे आके कमेंट्री करते हैं हमारी बातों के ऊपर. this is a third person's opinion on what India looks like today. People are free to have that similar opinions about Pakistan, and हमने इसी conversation के अंदर पाकिस्तान को भी बहुत deconstruct किया है. So please try to listen to this with an open mind, and if you have an alternate thought process, तो उसको तमीज़ से प्यार से बताएं. I would love to hear that as well in the comment section. But anyways, part 2 के लिए भी please do let me know in the comment section. Would you want to hear another part of this as well? But anyways, this was Sayyid Muzammil Hassan Zaidi. You are watching Thought Behind Things. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.